Good evening and welcome to the latest edition of the London Football Show Live. So as always, we're going to be spending the next hour looking at how our London clubs have fared in the past week. Joining me as always is Sports Tonight TV panellist and all-round football guru Kenny Ken. Welcome to the show, Kenny.
Welcome, Yusuf. It's been 2 weeks. Lots happened in 2 weeks. Chelsea are the Carling Cup holders. They've also got out the Champions League. Arsenal are in the semi-finals of the Cup. Millwall sacked their manager. And Tottenham keep on winning.
So we have a lot to get through in the next hour. Don't forget, if you want to get involved, you can send us a tweet by using @LFS_live. We're always looking for supporters' views, so send us a tweet and we might invite you to come on the show and share your views. So we're going to start, as always. We'll look at how our better London clubs fared in the past week. Now, there was no full Premier League fixture list last weekend because of the FA Cup quarter-finals, but there was one Premier League game, and it happened to be a London derby, so it's perfect for our show, and it was QPR versus Tottenham at Loftus Road. It ended 2-1 to Tottenham, and who else but Mr. Harry Kane got both goals. Kenny.
Yeah, it was a great centre-forward performance. It was actually the battle of the two centre-forwards, shooting sight Charlie Austin, and, Harry Kane, one of their own, and it was like a good shootout. I thought when I was watching the game on the website, and obviously I watched the highlights back on the full Premiership highlights, one thing I noticed is that the movement and the work rate of Harry Kane was fantastic. But in terms of Austin's one of those players. He's one of those old-fashioned centre-halves that shoots on sight. Because obviously before the Spurs QPR game, I was actually at the Arsenal Queen's Park Rangers game, obviously in the Arsenal end. One thing I noticed about Charlie Austin, he doesn't get involved in the play a lot, but anything from 30 yards out, he will shoot, and he will shoot on sight. And that was the sort of how he played. Saying that, in the first half, Queen's Park Rangers were the better side.
But they didn't win.
And that's one of the things that is so frustrating, is that Spurs, it was actually a very mixed performance from Spurs. They weren't playing well. Queen's Park Rangers was first to the ball. Sandro was having a very good game.
But the fact that Tottenham haven't played well and they've won the game, it leaves them in 6th, but they're only 3 points off the top 4. So it's games like this where they're not playing well, but they pick up the 3 points. That's going to be the difference come the end of the season between finishing in the top 4 and finishing outside.
You're 100% right about that. But again, there's two sides to it. We've got the Spurs side where they're not playing well. They certainly didn't play well in the first half, and they actually went 1-0 up. You've got Queen's Park Rangers can't even buy a goal. I mean, one of the things that I noticed that when I was at the Loftus Road last Wednesday, and it was apparent, last Saturday, is that I don't see where the goals come from without Austin.
We did say that it's going to be QPR's home form that will effectively decide whether they stay up or go down. They've lost to Arsenal and Tottenham at home consecutively. They've got some difficult home games coming up. Now they're 18th and 3 points inside the relegation. They're not going to survive, are they?
You can never say. Well, they've got a big game against Crystal Palace, who are basically a more organised setup. They've got pace in that team, who are going to hurt Queen's Park Rangers. And players like Punjan, he's got a goal in him. Gale comes through a few goals. I don't know. I think Murray's probably still serving a suspension, but there's goals in that team. Queen's Park Rangers don't have goals in them, and that's going to hurt them. That was very apparent. You can have all the great approach play you like, players bombing down the wing, and Charlie Austin shooting from sight. But if you can't put the ball in the net when you're on top, you're going to struggle.
And that they are.
Absolutely.
Evidently. Well, we'll review their game coming up a bit later in the show. But we'll go on now to the FA Cup quarter-final, where Arsenal, the only London club left in the FA Cup, they beat Manchester United away 2-1 at Old Trafford on Monday. What a result, Kenny.
It was a result, because I think we got a shocking result record at Old Trafford. I mean, the last time Arsenal won at Old Trafford was in September 2006 when Adebayor scored in the 87th minute. But apart from that... What
was your last game at Old Trafford that you went to?
My last game at Old Trafford was actually in 2008. I went behind my wife's back, secured a ticket and travel. There was 9,000 fans. In the FA Cup 5th round, I was part of the 9,000 fans. We lost 4-0. When the third goal went in, my wife phoned me just to say, ha, your team are losing. That teaches you for going by my back and booking a ticket to travel. And before I could answer back, she put the phone down.
on top of a 4-0 loss, always
exactly,
nice.
Yeah.
But great performance from Arsenal.
It was a very, very good performance, a very professional performance, and we, apart from the mistake for the goal, Mertesacker was solid, Cristiano was solid.
We're gonna break in quickly because we've got an Arsenal fan on the phone. Is he there? Hello?
Hello?
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you guys?
Not too bad. Thanks very much for joining us.
No worries.
We've got a few questions about Arsenal for you. We're going to start with Ken. Ken's going to ask you the first question.
First thing, James, I want to say what a great job you've been doing on the Arsenal Fan TV podcast.
Thank you very much, mate. Yeah. Much appreciated. Same as you guys.
I think Robbie's got to be a bit worried. You know, you might nick his job.
No. He's all right. He's all right. He's more video content. I'm more audio content, but you never know.
Yeah, definitely. Because we're just talking about the game at Old Trafford, and obviously it was a fantastic performance. But you know, like we had a similar performance at the Etihad. Do you think that the result at the game at Old Trafford eclipsed the performance in January at the Etihad?
From getting rid of the hoodoo of Old Trafford, yes, but I thought, it wasn't as good as a all-round defensive type of performance. I mean, Manchester United, if they hadn't have been, doing their Tom Daly impressions and Yamazai passed that ball to Wayne Rooney, we could have been in big trouble. But luckily he dived, and the referee, Michael Oliver, a lot's been said about officials not only in the Premier League but in Britain in general. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw that Celtic Aberdeen game where they were sending off players for fun or what have you. And, I think Michael Oliver got every decision right that game. He got all the big talking points correct.
Good stuff, that. We'll talk a little bit about Francis Coquelin. Like, is he now the answer to Arsenal's holding midfielder problems? Because he seems to have come from nowhere and he's absolutely playing out of his skin at the moment. He looks like one of the most experienced heads on the pitch.
If he can stay fit, then for sure. I mean, in the summertime, I can possibly see Flamini, who's out of a deal, on his way. Diaby, sad story, but he's finally possibly out the door as well, which it's a tragedy for football. I feel sad for the guy, but at the end of the day, needs must. And I can see possibly us buying maybe a defensive midfielder, but Coquelin for me, for a guy that was on loan at Charlton not too many months ago, to be thrown back in and to perform as well as he does, he is an absolute warrior. He's like a gladiator out there, and he leads by example as well. A lot of people say Arsenal haven't got a lot of leaders, but Coquelin's one of the youngest heads in the pitch, but he's one of the most, experienced as well, and most disciplined. He mops up when a Bellerin or Monreal or any of the other fullbacks want to bomb forward. He'll slot in there, and he does the duty, and he does it so well. So yeah, I'm more than impressed with Francis Coquelin, and I'm glad he signed that contract, for the long term.
Yeah, because obviously, before I get to the next question, there's a situation with Arteta as well, because Arteta he's had a few injuries this season. Again, he's over 30, in the same sort of boat with Flamini. Do you see like Arsenal, maybe selling them Arteta as well?
No, definitely not. For me, Arteta, I think he's being moulded and groomed into possibly a future manager within Arsenal. I think he'll stay at Arsenal for the future, which I will enjoy. And you see him; he does a lot of work with the youth team, with the youth players. I mean, if you watch when Arsenal play, if a younger type of player will score and Arteta's on the pitch, they'll run to him first and embrace with him first, because he's a guy that teaches them so well. Arteta's been around the block a bit. He was a Barcelona youth product, and then he moved on and he's progressed. And I can see Arsenal sort of doing what Barcelona do in that way of they take the players, like the veteran players, and then eventually teach them through the coaching system and whatnot. He wears them little jumper, tie combos like Guardiola now already. So maybe they'll do that in the future. Maybe he's a future manager, hopefully, because he's a great player when he's available, Arteta. I mean, the legs are a bit gone, but he still produces moments of brilliance. So.
Now, it's obviously a massive, massive game for Arsenal next week in the Champions League. Do you think they got any chance of turning around that 3-1 deficit?
It's a weird one. It really is. It really is, because for me, I think now we've really played into Monaco's hands, because they're a team that doesn't really attack, and they like to sit back on the ball and allow you to come at them, and they're very, very quick on the counter. I mean, for me, ideally, we need to stop Jeffrey Kondogbia breaking up the play, because that's all he did in the first leg. Was that Kondogbia was out of this world. He was so good. So hopefully, maybe just go up there and I wouldn't say go gun ho, but hopefully, start Theo Walcott, start Sanchez and Walcott together, because the pace is what's needed.
Yeah,
but nothing's impossible, I hope.
Now, Cosmo reminds us about 2 years ago when we won 2-0, all to no avail. But we still got the FA Cup.
Yeah.
And obviously it's a tournament that's close to both our hearts, because it was the last tournament we won in 2005. It's we're the FA Cup holders. But in terms of like Arsene Wenger's position, obviously it's something we discussed in private. I had discussions with like Robbie and a few others. If Arsenal win the FA Cup, does that give Arsene Wenger a reprieve?
Well, I'm one of his harshest, I think, critiques. And for me, if he manages to get that top 4 status and he wins another FA Cup, then he's added an extra to his remit. For me, his remit should be winning the league. But obviously, unfortunately, I don't own the club. I don't run the club. So that's one of the bad things about it. But for me, he signed a 2-year deal, and I think he'll stay through it unless something dramatically really happens. If we go completely off the boil out of the top 4 and then, lose in the FA Cup, I don't know, to Bradford or whoever, Reading again, or if we lose in the final to Tim Sherwood of Aston Villa or Blackburn, I don't think people would really be kicking up a fuss if it was to Liverpool.
Oh, we don't want to lose it. It's Liverpool.
I would like it.
I want this Stevie Gerrard, appreciation society to stop.
Ways, Kenny. Destiny, it's all that.
No, destiny, mate.
Prophecies.
Look,
and
in 2001, it was David Rocastle died that year, and we had Liverpool in the final. That didn't stop Liverpool from beating us, did it? If we get the final, it's against Liverpool. It's our day as well, not just Liverpool's.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah, I agree.
Good stuff. Well, James, thank you very much for joining us today. Finally, you got a prediction for Arsenal West Ham on Saturday?
Well, yeah, we did a podcast midweek with Chris Akabusi, and he reckoned it would be 3-2 to West Ham, but I'm going to go 3-1 to Arsenal. 3-1 to Arsenal. Excellent. Great stuff. Well, thanks very much for joining us, James, and we'll speak to you again soon. Yeah. All right, thanks a lot. All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Brilliant stuff. Well, we're going to take a quick break now. Join us after this break, and we'll continue talking about how our London clubs got on.